here's the part where I feel this strategy offers straight up liberation, because you're naming, I think, one of the greatest ills in schooling, which is that we learn to treat learning as a stepping stone, and sometimes not even for ourselves. So, pull up the chapter 10 reading again, because I was using the SQ3R, and I was like, dude, did she intentionally send this? Because there is some cool stuff in here that I feel like I want to take. But if I started from
No, I totally was just like, here's the first thing. Yeah, it was just there.
Okay. So, since you named, like, okay, I kind of skip survey and question. If you pull that back up and you go for the bird's eye view, go for the overview, and let what do I want to take away from this be the lead, and what do I need to take away from this for the hoops be the back, the caboose of kind of the driving. Yeah, is that clear?
Yeah, I mean, now I'm having to really think about creative crisis intervention techniques with children and families, and like, what the fuck does that even mean to me?
What an important question to be asking as you start off reading it. Yes, yeah. So
it's been interesting because this course in particular, what is called Creative Approaches to Trauma-Informed Practice, and so much of our learning has centered around working with children, and I just don't see myself really working with children. So I've kind of like had that distance between me and so much of the material.
Where the assumption is that it's not gonna really apply, right?
Or, I mean, I'm going into family therapy, so I know that like children will be adjacent to my work, and I deeply care about the well-being of children. I don't feel like I'm the therapist who's called to do the direct work with children. So yeah, I'm like, this might be nice to know, but is it real? How much is it really going to change what I'm going to be doing? Maybe not that much.
That is maybe like your most important first question, like that belongs in the queue.
Yeah, how much is this going to change what I'm going to be doing?
That's right, because what that question does is it involves your intrinsic curiosity, like your genuine learning of like, here's the thing that like I want to know. And even if you start out at maybe very little, that's where you get to survey, and survey with, maybe I'll be surprised, maybe there's a subtitle, or when you're surveying, I think you saw on the Harvard site, you kind of go title, headings to subheadings, and then to reading the first sentence in paragraphs.
Yeah.
So try skimming it. Do a survey of chapter 10 with exactly that question. As you think about what you want to do with families, what you've been doing with families, even if this text is focused on creative crisis intervention for children, how might that play into families? And if you do a skim and your answer is don't see anything here, awesome. That assignment gets to go to the back of the bin and be like, all right, I'm not going to spend my time here.
Yeah.
But you've got some confidence at least that you didn't pass up a good nugget.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because just from reading the title, the subtitles. I'm like, oh, I'm actually interested in reading this.
What's something standing out as interesting?
Just to go back, the concept of crisis and distinguishing trauma and crisis. Like, I started reading the first sentence and immediately went into the second one, and I'm like, okay, I want to keep reading how they're distinguishing trauma from crisis. And I go down to the creative interventions, and I'm looking at like rituals and routines, and I want to know what they have to say around rituals. And making meaning is always fascinating to me, because that is our greatest superpower as humans. Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm seeing is kind of the intersection of bandwidth and authentic engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you start just one foot in front of the other, it's instantly plotting. It's instantly something that you don't want to do for yourself. All of the worst things about school.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you just open it and you start with, how is this going to serve what I want to do? You find what you just found. The scanning lets you have your genuine attention kind of free to see what grabs it. In just that short time, do you feel like this approach will also satisfy the hoops that you need to in terms of, sufficient like interaction with the text for your assignments, your discussion board, whatever?
I think, yeah, I mean, generally our things are pretty open-ended, where we can really kind of pick out what we want to talk about.
Cool. Yeah, and I predict that if you cultivate this approach, you'll find an energized response to your writing, just because it comes across so much clearer when we're talking about the stuff we want to be talking about.
Yeah.